Hello and welcome back on focusing on specific data by using filters. In this chapter, we will know more about how to limit data that appears on your screen, how to filter Excel table data by using slicers, manipulate worksheet data, define valid sets of values of ranges of cells. With Microsoft Excel 2013, you can manage huge data collections by storing more than 1 million rows of data. Doesn't help you make business decisions unless you have the ability to focus on the most important data in a worksheet. Focusing on the most relevant data in a worksheet facilitates decision making, whether the data represents the 10 busiest days in a month or revenue streams that you might need to re-evaluate. Excel offers a number of powerful and flexible tools with which you can limit the data displayed in your worksheet. When your worksheet displays the subset of data you need to make a decision, you can perform calculations on the data. You can discover what percentage of monthly revenue was earned in the 10 best days in the month, find your total revenue for particular days of the week, or locate the slowest business day of the month. Now let's start with limiting data that appears on your screen. Excel spreadsheets can hold as much data as you need them to, but you might not want to work with all the data in a worksheet at the same time. For example, you might want to review the revenue figures for your company during the first third, the second third, and final third of a month. You can limit the data shown on a worksheet by creating a filter, which is a rule that selects rows to be shown in a worksheet. To create a filter, you can click a cell in the data you want to filter, and then in the Home tab, in the Editing group, click Sort and Filter, and then click Filter. When you do, Excel displays a filter arrow at the right edge of the top cell in each column of the data. The arrow indicates that the Excel autofilter capability is active. Now, in this exercise, we will filter worksheet data by using a series of autofilter commands. Create a filter showing the 5 days with the highest delivery exception counts in a month. Create a search filter and create a custom filter. Navigate to chapter 5, please, and then take the package exceptions file. If necessary, then click the by root worksheet, and in P2 to F27, please select it, and then in the Home tab Editing group, click Sort and Filter, and then Filter to display the filter arrow in each column header. Click the date column filter arrow, and then from the menu appears, click the March checkbox. March. And Okay, we got April only. Checkbox and changes the state of the select all. Right. That's also changed the select all button, right? You can also just go for select all for April this way. And 2013 checkbox is to indicate that some items within those categories have been filtered. Click OK to hide all rows that contain a date from the month of March. Then click the center column filter. From the menu that appears, clear the select all checkbox in the list, and then select Midwest distribution center during the month of April. In the Home tab in the editing group, click Sort and Filter and click Clear. To clear all active filters, but leave the filter arrow in place. Click the route column header and enter RT9. RT9. It displays only those routes with an identifier that includes the characters RT9. Click OK to apply the filter and display exceptions that occurred on routes with identifiers that contain the string RT9. Click the March daily count sheet. Right, there you go. And then click any cell in the Excel table. Click Exceptions, column, filter arrow, and point to number filters. And then click the top 10 to open the top 10 auto filter dialog box. Now, in the middle field, enter 5 and then click OK to display the table rows that contain the 5 highest values in the exceptions column. Click the exceptions column filter arrow and then clear the filter from exceptions. Click the date column filter, point to date filters, and click custom filter to open auto filter dialog box. In the upper left list, click after or equal to, and I will take the format of this list here, so it's okay, it's March, then it's 8 March 2013. In the lower list, lead end, and in the lower list, before or equal, and the same here, but you can change the day to 14. Click OK. Because you left the AND option selected, Excel displays all table rows that contain a date ranging from 8th of March to 14th of March inclusive. Okay, and that's it. Now you can get it back with undo. Thank you for your attention. Let's continue again with filtering Excel table data by using slicers. In versions of Excel prior to Excel 2013, the only visual indication that you have applied a filter to an Excel table column is the indicator added to a column's filter arrow. The indicator lets users know that there is an active filter applied to that column, but provides no information about which values are displayed and which are hidden. Beginning with Excel 2010, you could use slicers to provide a visual indication of which items are currently displayed or hidden in a pivot table. Excel 2013 extends that ability to filtering an Excel table. To create a slicer, click any cell in an Excel table and then on the Insert tab in the Filters group, click Slicer to display the Insert Slicers dialog box. Now in this exercise, we will filter the contents on and off an Excel table by using slicer, and we need for that the slicers workbook. Click any cell in the Excel table. On the Insert tab in the ribbon, click the slicer button. We go slicers in the filters group. Mistaken by the book, the filters group wasn't mentioned. Right, now select the month and region checkboxes and then click OK to add slicers for the months and region columns. Okay, let's move it on to the other side. In the month slicer, click the January item and then holding Shift key, January, click April. Okay, so January and holding Shift key, click April. Now it's selected. From January till April. And Excel updates the table to display values of the months of January, February, March, and April. In the region slicer, click the Central item and then holding the Control key, Novest item. Excel updates your table to display values for Central and Novest regions, but only for the January, February, March, and April months. Right-click the region slicer and remove region to delete it. Okay. In the month slicer, click the June item to display results from the month of June. And in the month slicer, click the clear filter button to remove the filter and display the entire table. Right-click the mouse slicer and remove Mouse to delete it. That was it. Manipulating worksheet data. Excel offers a wide range of tools you can use to summarize worksheet data. This section shows you how to select rows at random by using the rand and run between functions, how to summarize worksheet data by using subtotal and aggregate functions, and how to display a list of unique values within a data. This time we will take our 4 follow-up workbook located in chapter 5 folder, and in this exercise we will select random rows from a list of exceptions to identify package delivery misadventures to investigate, then create an aggregate formula to summarize the visible cells in a filtered worksheet and find the unique values in one column of data. Before that we start, let me tell you a few more points. Now, we already started with subtotal, rand between, and aggregate functions. So let's go for selecting list rows at random. In addition to filtering the data that is stored in your Excel worksheets, you can choose rows at random from a list. Selecting rows randomly is useful for choosing which customers will receive a special offer, deciding which days of the month to audit, or picking prize winners at an employee party. To choose rows randomly, you can use the rand function, which generates a random value between 0 and 1, and compare the value it returns with the test value included in the formula. As an example, suppose Consolidated Messenger wanted to offer approximately 30% of its customers a discount in their next shipment. The formula that returns a true value 30% of the time would be rand smaller than and equal to 0.3. That is, whenever a random value was between 0 and 0.3, the result would be true. You could use this formula to select each row in a list with a probability of 30%, a formula that displays true when the value is equal to or less than 30%, and false otherwise would be then equal to, and if rand smaller than and equal to 0.3, comma, true, comma, false. That would be your function in this case. Now you can also use rand between. The rand between functions generates a random whole number within a defined range. For example, the formula rand between, so this is rand between, let me show you, between 1 and 100 would generate a random integer value from 1 to 100 inclusive, so both inclusive, right? run between function is very useful to creating sample data collections for presentations. Before the run between function was introduced, you had to create formulas that added, subtracted, multiplied, and divided the results of the rand function, which are always decimal values between 0 and 1 to create your data. Summarizing worksheet by using hidden and filtered rows. The ability to analyze is another topic. So the ability to analyze the data that's most vital to your current needs is important, but there are some limitations to how you can summarize your filtered data by using functions such as sum and average. One limitation is that any formulas you create that include the sum and average functions do not change their calculations if some of the rows used in the formula are hidden by the filter. Excel provides two ways to summarize just the visible cells in a filtered data list. The first method is to use AutoCalculate. To use AutoCalculate, you select the cells you want to summarize. When you do that, Excel displays the average of the values in the cells, the sum of values in the cells, and then the number of the visible cells to count in the selection. You can find the display on the status bar at the lower edge of the Excel window. Now let's go for a few more options. Now we have here the operation number includes hidden values in operation number, ignores values in manually hidden rows and functions. Okay, let's go for it. The function is average. It returns the average of the values in the range. Count counts the cells in the range that contain a number. Count A non-black cell is in the count of the range. Maximum returns the largest maximum value in the range, and minimum returns the smallest minimum value of the range. Product returns the result of multiplying all numbers in the range. We have stdev.s, which is a standard deviation. So it calculates the standard deviation of the values in the range by examining a sample of the values. Then stdev.p calculates the standard deviation of the values in the range by using all the values. And then we have sum, we know already, and variation of the sample, which is var.s, and variation of the population. So calculates the variance of the population, and then variance of the sample. Okay, so variance of the sample would be var.s, and variance of the population would be var.p. So just as mentioned, we have lots of operations available for aggregate. One of them is average, then count A is for blank. No, sorry, count A is for non-blank cells. Then max, min, product returns the result of the multiplying all numbers in the range, and then standard deviation for sample, standard deviation for population, sum, variance of sample, variance of population. Median returns the value in the middle of the group of the values. Mode as a dot SNGL returns the most frequent occurring value in the group of numbers. Then large and small returns the case largest and the case smallest value in the dataset. Case is specified by using the last function argument, and if k is left blank, Excel returns the largest value or the smallest value. And then percentile.inc returns the case percentile of values in a range where k is a value between 0 and 1, both inclusive. Quartile and returns the quartile value of the data set based on a percentile from 0 to 1 inclusive. That's quartile.inc, and a percentile.exc returns the k percentile of values in range where k is the value from 0 to 1 exclusive. Percentile quartile exclusive, so quartile.exc returns the quartile value of the dataset based on a percentage from 0 to 1 exclusive. So ENC goes for inclusive. Inclusive means that both 0 and 1 are included, and EXC goes for exclusive, meaning that 0 and 1 are excluded. Now, we are at the for follow-up workbook. Let's start with by root and select our data from G3. Sorry, because we don't need this, from G3 to G27. The average values in the selected cell numbers, the number of the cells selected, the total values, and number of at the status bar. Right. Here you go, average value, count, and the sum. You see in the status bar. Now, in cell J2, enter the formula, aggregate 1, 1. You see the first one is average. And then 1 was standing for what exactly? Let's check it out. Ignore hidden rows and nested subtotal and aggregate functions. So ignore hidden rows and nested subtotal. And then go for, sorry, I have to change it to semicolon, 1 semicolon, and then G3 to G3 to G27. Please use comma for your exercise. As you know, my regional setup or regional setting is German, so that's why I need to use semicolon. Now press enter, and your value should be 1576. In the data tab in the sort filter group, click advanced. And you open the advanced filter box. In the list range field, enter E2, E27, that's correct. And select the unique orders only. And then click OK to display the rows that contain the first occurrence of each different value in the selected range. In the Data tab, in the Sort Filter group, click Clear to remove the filter. And then in A3, enter the formula if rand less than 0.15, 0.15 for you, 0.15 for me, then comma for you, semicolon for me, yes, and comma for me, semicolon for you, sorry, pardon me, comma for you, semicolon for me, and then no, and then you close the bracket and then press enter. Now select again H3 and then drag down to H27, and then with the range still selected, on the Home tab in the Clipboard group, click Copy button. Excel copies the cell ranges contents to the Microsoft Office clipboard. Click the paste arrow, and then in the paste gallery that appears, click the first icon. First icon. Hold on. In the paste values group, the first to replace the cell formulas with the formula's current results. So only results, no formulas. That's it. Now we are done. Our next assignment is defining valid sets of values for ranges of cells. Part of creating efficient and easy to use worksheet is to do what you can to ensure the data entered into your worksheet is as accurate as possible. So also, it isn't possible to catch every typographical or transcription error. You can set up a validation rule to make sure that data entered into a cell meets certain standards. To create a validation rule, display the Data tab on the ribbon, and then in the Data Tools, group, click the Data Validation. You have here Data Validation. To open the Data Validation dialog box, you can use the controls in the Data Validation dialog box to define the type of data that Excel should allow in the cell, and then depending on the data type you choose to set the conditions data must meet to be accepted in the cell. For example, you can set a condition so that Excel knows to look for a whole number value between 1000 and 2000. Setting accurate validation rules can help you and your colleagues avoid entering a customer's name in the cell designated to hold the phone number, or setting a credit limit above a certain level. To require a user to enter a numeric value in a cell, display the settings page of the Data Validation dialog box, and depending on your needs, choose either whole number or decimal from the allow list. Now, for this exercise, what we'll do now, we need the credit workbook, and we create a data validation rule that limits the credit line of Consolidated Messenger customers to 25,000. Add an input message mentioning the limitation, and then create an error message if someone enters a value greater than 25,000. After you create your rule and messages, you test them. So we will test them. Now select the cell range in the sheet number 1, J4 to J7. Note that J7 is currently blank. Right, J4 to J7 currently blank. You will add the value to it later in this exercise. On the data tab in the data tools, data validation. To open the data validation dialog box. Right, and then after that, in the allow list, click whole number. Okay. Boxes labeled minimum and maximum appear below the data box. In the data list, click less than or equal to, and then only the maximum value you have, and enter 25,000. Iman Ochan. Click the ignore blank checkbox. And then click the input message tab to display the input message page. In the title box, enter limit. So enter limit. In the title box, and in the input message, please enter the customer's credit limit, omitting the $sign and any commas. Then click error alert tab to display the error alert, and then in the style list, click stop to change the icon that appears on your message, and then in the title, enter error, and then click OK. Now click J7 when you do descriptive with the title enter limit and the text please enter the customer's credit limit, omitting the $sign and any commas appears near cell J7. Enter 25001 and then enter. A stop box with the title error opens, leaving the error message box blank in step 12 causes Excel to use its default message. Click cancel to close the error box. Click cell J7 to make it active cell and display the screen tip. and then enter 25 and then press enter. On the data tab in the data tools, click the data validation, and then in the list click circle invalid data. Red circle appears around the data value in J4. Click clear validation circles, and that's it for now. Thank you for your attention. We will continue soon again with chapter 6.